Heartbreaking truth about Ozzy Osbourne, Devin Townsend's revelations, and reunited Dream Theater have finally hit the stage. Metal is live and well, so let's see what keeps it going today. Here you go. Ozzy Osbourne is falling apart. This Thursday, Ozzy Osbourne drummer Nick Pierce has announced his departure from the band. Just 6 days after the bassist and vocalist Ryan Neff did exactly the same thing. And just a couple of hours after the guitarist Ken Suzy announced he's parting with the band. Oh, and also their tour manager has quit. So basically pretty much everyone has freaking left the band, with the only two remaining members being Tim Lambesis and his longtime guitarist Phil Sgrosso. Now, announcing their departures, the boys have used very vague explanations. Mostly something about them remaining in the band being bad for their mental health, or something about Ozzy Osbourne pushing their moral boundaries, which of course leads many fans to believe that the many recent accusations against Tim Lambesis are indeed true. Yet at the same time, what he did before was absolutely fine with everyone in the band. And all of this is happening just a couple of months after Ozzy Osbourne have just returned to the world of metal, and their next studio album is actually due to the release on November 15th via Napalm Records, which I'm not even sure is happening anymore, since the band has already announced the cancellation of their entire European tour, and the whole existence of Ozzy Osbourne is a big question mark at the moment. And by the way guys, I'm recording this segment on Thursday, right after Nick Pierce's announcement, which I'm now thinking that might be a little bit too early, since there is still one band member left in Ozzy Osbourne in addition to Tim Lambesis, and there are 2 whole days until the release of this Metal Digest. So I hope that nothing else happens within the band, so that I don't have to re-record this segment. But anyways, I just have to point out that even though I actually do like some of the early Ozzy Osbourne material, this is actually one of those bands that I will absolutely not miss if they disappear from the face of the earth. And especially after their feat with Alex the Terrible.
Scream it with me.
And here guys, I have to point out a very harsh truth about this channel. That only around 30% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed to the Metal Pilgrim channel. And this is something that we simply have to change, and preferably right now. So if you guys haven't done so yet, and especially if this is not the first video you're watching on the show, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to this channel right now. And unless it's your first time on YouTube, I think you know where to click. Testament and Floor Jansen collab. In a recent interview to AM/FM magazine, the Testament singer Chuck Billy has finally opened up a little bit more about the upcoming Testament album, which according to him, the band has almost finished recording already, and that means that there's a very high chance that we will actually get to hear it sometime next year. And this, in my opinion, is simply amazing news, since I actually believe that Testament is one of the best thrash metal bands in the world, and they definitely deserve even more attention than they currently get. But in addition to everything, Chuck Billy actually revealed that the band has prepared a rather unusual collaboration on it. A collaboration with nobody else, but with Floor Jansen of Nightwish. On this record, I don't want to say the word ballad, but we wrote a slower song like we had back in the 80s and 90s that we wrote on this record. And it's really awesome, really good. We're gonna bring in a guest vocalist, Floor Jansen from Nightwish. She's gonna sing on it with me, and we're gonna put in some string section into the song, said Chuck Billy, afterwards adding, "We're not afraid to take those chances where a lot of bands criticize you, like, oh, we don't write ballads, what are you doing that for?" But you know what? At this point in our lives and career, we're writing to make us happy first and foremost, and what feels good, what feels right, and this song just felt right now to kind of do this again. Well, in honesty, this actually sounds pretty cool. And I actually have a little coming out to do for you guys. I don't mind ballads at all. And I even kinda like some old school ballads on thrash metal albums, to be honest with you. And if Testament is going to bring this back, do it tastefully and do it with Floor Jansen, I'm all pro that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how it turns out until next year. But anyway guys, what do you personally think about ballads on metal albums? Do you like them, or do you think that they are unnecessary and simply an attention grab to make it into the mainstream? Please let us know in the comments. As once again, in my opinion, when it is done tastefully, I have nothing against it. Ozzy Osbourne's Heartbreak and induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Last weekend, Ozzy Osbourne was finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist. And yeah, we spoke multiple times about how this should have been done like 20 years ago when Ozzy was first eligible for it, so no need to repeat it once again. And let's just be happy today that this has finally happened. The induction speech has been given by Tenacious D's Jack Black, who called Ozzy the greatest frontman in the history of rock and roll, praising Ozzy's debut solo album Blizzard of Oz as the most metal thing he had ever seen, and overall praising the legendary artist in a manner very suitable to, you know, Jack Black.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ozzy Osbourne, the fucking Prince of Darkness.
After which, Ozzy Osbourne gave a very short and laconical speech, of which we'll talk in a moment, thanking his family and all the loved ones for being inducted, and underlining the importance of Randy Rhoads for his career, without whom, according to Ozzy Osbourne, he would never have been where he is at today.
One thing for a guy by the name of Randy Rhoads. Because if I hadn't met Randy Rhoads, I don't think I'd be sitting here now.
And after that, the crowd has been blessed by an all-star performance of Ozzy Osbourne songs, featuring Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith, Metallica bassist Rob Trujillo, Andrew Watt, Adam Wakeman, Maynard James Keenan, Zakk Wylde, Wolfgang Van Halen, and Jelly Roll. And this performance and the induction ceremony overall has showed us two things about Ozzy Osbourne. So first of all, when it comes to the instrumental part of the performance, it was nearly spotless. And overall, Zakk Wylde, which is pretty understandable, and Wolfgang Van Halen both did an incredible job at honoring Ozzy Osbourne's legacy. And even more, with the way Wolfgang Van Halen has performed the iconic Randy Rhoads solo, which he's done in a manner very true to the original one, has once again kind of showed that he is actually one of the best modern guitarists out there. So yeah, when it comes to the instrumental part, I think most Ozzy Osbourne fans have zero questions about that. And yet, at the same time, this performance has once again showcased why, despite not really having an operatic voice, Ozzy Osbourne is always included into all possible lists of the best vocalists out there. As it is when you hear his songs sang, okay, let's be honest here, butchered by somebody else, that you realize how unique his voice actually is. I'm coming home. And secondly, well, it has showed us that despite all our hopes and expectations, the possibility of Ozzy Osbourne performing a full live show sometime in the future is close to zero, as it was simply heartbreaking to see how hard it was for Ozzy Osbourne to give even that short speech that he did at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. And the whole fact that he has not gotten up from his throne, a very cool throne by the way, shows us that his health is most likely not getting any better compared to a couple of years ago, and thus a possibility of the legendary Prince of Darkness going up on stage once again, unfortunately, is fading away. But either way, Ozzy Osbourne is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and this indeed is great news. So from all of us metalheads around the world, Ozzy, you're a freaking legend. And even if the only thing we'll hear from you in the future is that new album that you're currently working on and which you're promising to release sometime in 2025, and even more, even if this does not happen, you will always remain one of the craziest in heavy metal. Oh, I just realized that I came from the street and I had my sunglasses on this whole time. They're kinda Ozzy-esque, nah? Well guys, although I don't actually have any sunglasses in my store, I have to point out that Halloween, Thanksgiving and Christmas are all coming very, very soon, and therefore it is the best possible time to get some new Metal Pilgrim merch. And yes, I know it might be a little bit too early for some, but I simply couldn't wait and have already taken out our Metal Grinch merch out of the closet. So guys, if you would like to support this show, and of course if you'd like to rock some Metal Pilgrim merch this holiday season or at any concerts you're about to attend, I'll be more than happy to send it pretty much anywhere across the world. And all of it you can of course find at metalpilgrim.net. And now the time has come for us to talk about 5 newest releases from this week, which sadly did not get their own segments in this Metal Digest, with the only reason for that being my efforts of not making this video 45 minutes long. Thrash death metalers Enforced unleashed a ferocious new EP, A Leap into the Dark, featuring 6 skull-crushing tracks full of power and relentless aggression. Overall, in my opinion, Enforced is one of the best new bands in the genre, and so their EP is definitely worth your attention. The legendary Cradle of Filth returned with their new song Malignant Perfection just in time for Halloween. The track is accompanied by a music video done in a vein of old-school horror movies. Overall, just as Danny Filth told me in the interview not so long ago, parts of the song bring back the Midian vibe, yet it is still too early to say anything about which direction the new Cradle of Filth album will take the band in, which, by the way, hasn't even been announced yet. Progressive deathcore band Fit for an Autopsy dropped their new album The Nothing That Is, and it is a record of extremes, which is rather hard to characterize with just a couple of words. And although it might not be packed with immediate bangers, it might be one of those records which may grow on the band's loyal fanbase. The eyes of Modern metal force League of Distortion dropped their newest studio record Galvanize, on which they once again seize an opportunity to surprise their fans. By the way, I had a very in-depth and honest interview with the band's frontwoman Anna Brunner, which is already available on the second channel MP2. So check it out if you're a fan of modern metal. The newly reunited Linkin Park released the new single Over Each Other and the official music video for it. The Over Each Other video was shot in South Korea after Linkin Park's September 28th concert in the country, so it is super fresh. And overall, this song is the 3rd single from the upcoming studio album From Zero due on November 15th, the band's first new album since its reunion earlier this year. By the way guys, if you heard some new music and you think that I should absolutely discuss it, just know that you can send it over to me at press@metalpilgrim.net or simply by sending me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I'll be more than happy to feature more young bands on this show. Devin Townsend and his Powernerd. This week, Devin Townsend has finally released his highly anticipated new studio album, Powernerd. The album which helped Devin open yet another new chapter in his career and becomes the first record of a trilogy which promises to be very and very diverse. And since most of you guys know that every week I invite a special guest on our Metal Digest, this week I'm more than happy to welcome nobody else but Devin Townsend himself on our Metal Chat. The upside of the updated music industry of the 21st century, let's call it like that, is the abundance of music. And because of that abundance of music and the accessibility of it, I feel like also a listener would always value authenticity, and after a while they can differentiate between what is authentic and what is just commercial bullshit done.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think that the onus is on the artist on some level to vet their ideas so that what they're coming at it from, the point of view that they're coming at it from is one that they can stand behind. And I think that Powernerd is a great example of a record where that was difficult, because it started as the first record of a 4-record process that was essentially like me extending an olive branch to the audience saying, hey, thank you for tolerating all the weird bullshit that I do. Here's a bunch of these type of songs that I do that I had been sort of working on over the past couple of years. And as I do, I just write constantly and then categorize those things into things that are similar to it. So when I started working on it, its intent was really just kind of like a fun party record. But then we started going through and went through a bunch of shit as a family that was, you know, exceptionally difficult, with loss and grief being a foundation of that moment. And at that point, I couldn't rationalize the lyrics that I had originally written for the music. And the decision ended up coming that it's like, okay, if you're working on this and you've committed to releasing it, which I had done, yet your intent for its thematic qualities has changed, you would better reevaluate. And so a lot of the difficulties of making this record, circumstances aside, were based on trying to find my truth amidst a moment where I was very confused.
The full interview with Devin Townsend will be available on the show next week and is actually already available for all of my patrons, to whom, by the way, I'm very thankful for supporting the show. And in all honesty, I have to point out that this was one of the most in-depth conversations I've had on this channel in quite some time, as we were able to speak not only about Powernerd and the creative process behind it, but also about how it is like to be a musician and stay true to yourself, the current state of the music industry, and the time when Devin Townsend was actually asked to replace Rob Halford in Judas Priest, among many other things. So definitely do check it out when it comes out. But for now, I just have to point out that Powernerd is definitely one of those albums which is worthy of your attention. And not really because on it, Devin opens up from a completely new side or brings something absolutely new and unique to the world of metal, but because it actually is an extremely honest record. And you can feel this honesty from the very beginning until the very end of Powernerd, which is something rather rare in today's world. And even if only for this, I definitely encourage you to check it out right after watching this Metal Digest. Paul Di'Anno's passing, aftermath. Of course, the most shocking news for pretty much all the metalheads around the world, but especially for the Iron Maiden family, was the news of the passing of the legendary Iron Maiden frontman Paul Di'Anno. And now, obviously, I paid a tribute to Paul Di'Anno on Monday, and then afterwards we discussed whether Iron Maiden's tribute they did on their first concert, ironically at St. Paul, Minnesota, was appropriate and so on and so forth. So I'm not gonna go into the details of this in this video. You can of course watch those videos afterwards if you still haven't seen those. Nevertheless, the more time passes since Paul's departure from this world, the more tributes to the legendary frontman we start seeing around. And so this week we found out that the official documentary about Paul Di'Anno is actually in the making and will see the light of day most likely in 2025. And it was directed and produced by nobody else but Wes Ashofsky, the same guy who's worked on the Lemmy documentary, which I thought was pretty awesome. And so while paying tribute to the legendary Iron Maiden frontman, Wes said the following: "Rest in peace, Paul. Just learned that Paul Di'Anno has passed. Don't have many details yet. Very sad. As many know, I've been working on a documentary about Paul for the past several years, as he has been fighting to get back on his feet, literally, emotionally, and professionally. It's obviously quite sad that it has ended this way. I am very thankful for the experiences and opportunities I had with Paul and because of Paul. And I learned a lot from him. The film will be out next year and details will be forthcoming. The hope is for it to debut at film festivals in early 2025. I'm very excited for the Maiden faithful to see it. Once it is released, you will see just how tough his life has been over the past decade and how hard he fought to change it. Maybe he's finally found some peace. Say hi to Clive for us, legend." And this is actually great news, because Paul was actually one of those people whom you can talk quite a lot about, and especially about his time after his departure from Iron Maiden. Which, by the way, reminds me that one of our next episodes on the Up the Iron series will actually be about all of Paul's bands after Iron Maiden, and there is a lot to talk about there. But nevertheless, the whole fact that it is Wes Orshowski who is working on this documentary makes me personally rather excited to see it. And of course, the more time passes, the more tributes around the world are starting to pop up. And not only from Iron Maiden fans, but from musicians themselves as well. Like, for example, the one during the South Troopers Festival next year in the south of France, where Paul Di'Anno was set to perform, yet instead of cancelling his appearance at this festival, the festival will hold a special tribute show with Paul's original band and multiple singers from a lot of different new wave of British heavy metal bands who will be paying tribute to the legendary frontman. And this, of course, is just one of the examples, as I'm sure that in the next couple of months we'll hear of many similar tributes taking place in 2025. Including, of course, the most important one, as we all do remember that just a couple of weeks ago Iron Maiden have announced their Run For Your Lives tour in 2025, which is supposed to focus on the early Iron Maiden days. And I'm actually really looking forward to see how Iron Maiden will pay tribute to the first ever vocalist this band has recorded their studio material with during that run. And I really do hope to hear some touchy songs from the first two Iron Maiden records.
I shall return.
Dream Theater's live reunion. This week, the legendary prog metal band Dream Theater have finally played their first show with Mike Portnoy in over 14 years, which took place at the O2 Arena in London, United Kingdom, with which Dream Theater kicked off the European leg of their 40th anniversary tour, presented as An Evening with Dream Theater. The band's setlist during the first couple of shows, of course, did not bring any wild surprises, and when it comes to the classic songs, I mean, the ones that Dream Theater have written together with Mike Portnoy during the first time he was in the band, we gotta say that the band has given their fans pretty much exactly what they wanted. But what is kind of interesting is that in addition to those, Dream Theater have also performed the two songs from the Mike Mangini era, those being This Is the Life and Barstool Warrior from their 2019 studio record. And in addition to that, of course, as it was expected, have also made a live debut of their newest single, Night Terror. But in all honesty, when talking about such bands as Dream Theater and their I'm gonna say this, iconic reunion with the legendary Mike Portnoy, and especially when we're talking about the first shows of the tour, in all honesty, most of the fans wouldn't really care as much about how the band sounds together or which songs they would perform, because everyone does understand that their performance will improve and become more coherent the more the boys play together once again. But rather what everyone cares about is the atmosphere during those first live shows. And I gotta say that at least from the clips we can see online, and according to all of you metal pilgrims who actually were able to witness those shows and send me some info, it was freaking incredible, as it really feels like a family reunion, a loving and caring for each other family that for a number of reasons was not able to sit at one table for a very long time. Yet at the same time, speaking just a tiny little bit about the setlist, a couple of weeks ago, answering a question about playing together once again and whether he will be in charge of the setlist once more, just as he was before his departure from Dream Theater, Mike Portnoy said, "Yeah, it's an area that was always my department and my passion. I always wrote all the setlists for Dream Theater as well as any of my bands or projects. That's an area that's very important to me. And yeah, when I come back to Dream Theater, a lot of the things we have to figure out who's gonna be in charge of what. So I have to kind of find my place within the band's chemistry now." But yeah, one of the things they did give back to me was the setlist, and it is a great open palette to work with, really, said Mike Portnoy. And here I just wanted to point out that I absolutely love the fact that the boys did include the 2 songs from the Mike Mangini era, and specifically these 2 songs, since in my opinion those definitely do deserve to be performed live in the future. But yeah, anyways, Dream Theater are back, and it is absolutely incredible to see the boys up on stage together one more time. And even more so, it is just an incredible joy to see the boys hugging up on stage and acting like a real family. So yes, welcome back Dream Theater, and of course we all are eagerly anticipating some more new material from the band, which I'm sure will be coming very, very soon. But anyways, what new music did you listen to this week? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for supporting me, this show, and Ukraine through this very difficult time. Please don't forget to like this video, comment under it, spread the word about this channel, share this video. You know the drill, you know everything, you know, all the YouTubers are asking you to do. Come on, it's not your first video on YouTube, right? So yeah, but in addition to everything, I just wanted to point out that we do have our Instagram and Facebook and Discord communities, so if you hang out at any of those social media platforms, I'll be more than happy to see you out there as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!